Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, you are very welcome. This is Reading the Past and I'm Dr. Cat. As I hurtle through my second pregnancy, I am already 8 months along at the time of filming this video, I find myself thinking about the ways in which my contemporary experiences might both connect to and indeed differ from those of my early modern counterparts. This has led me to think about the potential shifts that might have occurred during pregnancy and labour in the past as a result of the ideological, spiritual and legal changes of the English Reformation. And so that's why today we're going to explore pregnancy, pilgrimage and prayer in early modern England. Let's check it out. While Henry VIII was on campaign in France, and his wife, Katherine of Aragon, remained behind acting as his regent in England, she wrote him a letter, dated to the 16th of September 1513. In that letter, she informed him of the English victory against the troops of their brother-in-law, James IV of Scots, at the Battle of Flodden. She famously wrote of how she was sending him a, quote, piece of the King of Scots' coat, which John Glynn now bringeth. In this your grace shall see how I can keep my promise, sending you for your banners a king's coat. I thought to send himself unto you, but our Englishmen's hearts would not suffer it. She also informed him in this letter of her plan to make a pilgrimage to the shrine of Our Lady at Walsingham, quote, that I promised so long ago to see. That earlier promise had been made back in 1511. It is thought that Catherine wished to express her gratitude and devotion for the safe arrival of her and Henry's son, Prince Henry, Duke of Cornwall. Just 52 days after that baby's birth, before Catherine could make her pilgrimage, little Henry unexpectedly died. By the time she was writing this letter, on the 16th of September 1513 though, Catherine, as we can see, is once again making plans to journey to Walsingham. She was, at this point, expecting another baby. And so perhaps the journey at this point was a way for her to express her gratitude for both the Flodden victory and her developing pregnancy. Maybe she hoped that by doing so, she might encourage divine providence to act for her and her baby in the weeks and months to come. Sadly though, whatever she may have hoped, this pregnancy would not result in a living child. Catherine would undertake this pilgrimage again in 1517. On that occasion, she journeyed to Walsingham with her sister-in-law and brother-in-law, that's Mary Tudor and Charles Brandon. When this group made the trip, Mary was just a couple of months shy of delivering her daughter Frances. Some scholars have taken this as a sign that Catherine was, or at least believed herself, to be pregnant again as well. If so, that pregnancy is not recorded. And maybe there was no pregnancy, or no perceived pregnancy. Maybe Catherine wished only to accompany Mary and Charles. Perhaps she wanted to give thanks for the safe delivery of her own daughter, Mary, in the previous year. Alternatively, it is possible that she was looking to engender divine intervention for a successful future pregnancy. By the time of these royal visits, the shrine of Our Lady at Walsingham had been a site of miracles and pilgrimage for many centuries. According to a note which is found in a Book of Hours, which is now held by the Cambridge University Library, this holy site was founded back in 1061, after the lady of the local manor, one Richelieu de Ferverche, a woman famed for her piety, received the first of 3 identical holy visions. In these visions, the Virgin Mary, Mother of Jesus, came to her and showed her the house in Nazareth where the Archangel Gabriel had announced the birth of Jesus. The Virgin Mary then asked her to have a replica of that house built at Walsingham. From the earliest years, pilgrims to this site would come in search of Mary's intercession, desiring for her to commune with Jesus on their behalf. Mary's role as miraculous mother, I think, naturally led to her being viewed by many as a particularly fitting intercessor for those who were hoping for a safe pregnancy and birth, and/or for those willing to express their gratitude for the same. Walsingham would come to be viewed as one of the leading sites of pilgrimage, not only for people in England, but across Christendom as a whole. Word swiftly spread that pilgrims' prayers had been answered, that afflictions had been healed simply from drinking the well water there. The site would be visited by numerous English kings: Henry III, Edward I, Edward II, Henry IV, Edward IV, Henry VII, and Henry VIII. And as we have discussed already, through the example of Katherine of Aragon, Mary Tudor, and Charles Brandon, the site was also visited by those who were closest to these kings as well. The last of these kings who made pilgrimage to Walsingham, Henry VIII, would, within just a few decades, precipitate and permit the suppression of the shrine. That happened in 1538. The Walsingham shrine would not be restored until 1922. The suppression of shrines like Walsingham, the monastic dissolutions, also came with various legal and social changes that would affect those people who were living during and after the English Reformation. For hopeful, expectant and postpartum parents, individuals who had perhaps previously sought comfort in the act of pilgrimage, the suppression of the shrine at Walsingham may have, depending on those individuals' devotional character by that point, felt like a substantial loss. If nothing else, it must have forced them to reassess, even to restructure, their understanding of the experiences, routines and customs of childbearing. The things they watched their own family members and friends do would now be closed off to them, stripped away. With this historical experience, I must confess that I feel I can somewhat sympathise, since I had a, shall we say, unusual or uncustomary pregnancy first time around. My first son was born in the September of 2020, and so my pregnancy, birth and postpartum period occurred against the backdrop of a global pandemic. Now, while I'm not saying it's the same, I do think that, like my early modern Reformation counterparts, my 2020 pregnancy was somewhat uncharted territory. What was recommended for me to do, what was even permissible, and what was restricted seemed to be in a near constant state of flux, sometimes changing between morning and afternoon, day to day, or even week to week. It was hard to seek advice, difficult to forge a sense of community. There was a lack of shared experiences with people who had had babies before me. The medical staff I saw were also working in an unprecedented situation. And this has had a knock-on effect for my current pregnancy, because in many ways it's a new experience for my husband and I. We often find ourselves discombobulated by the parts of this journey that now feel very alien to us. But then we realise that these are not new policies, rather they were the standard pre-2020 ones that have now been reinstated. And having the awareness of that doesn't make it less disorientating for us to go through. In the first pregnancy, so much of day-to-day life was affected. And I think the English Reformation was also pervasive within people's lived experiences. In addition to that suppression of shrines, the Reformation challenged the understanding of the afterlife, specifically the existence of purgatory. How one might reach heaven also became contested. Was faith alone sufficient? Did works also justify, or were works simply a distracting superstition? I wonder, do you think these queries, this confusion, might have played on the mind of a woman as she prepared for the dangers of childbearing, both for herself and for her baby? Because I can certainly see how it would. And then on top of these questions, the Reformation mother-to-be would also officially, at least, be discouraged from, even denied, the use of religious objects which had been a staple of the birthing chamber for generations. Prior to the Reformation, relics or amulets might be held or worn during pregnancy. In some cases, women would wrap themselves in something known as a birthing girdle. Not many of these birthing girdles survive today. One of them that does is now held in the Wellcome collection. It has been shown to date from around 1500. It's made of sheepskin and it shows signs of staining. Upon analysing those stains, researchers found evidence of a, quote, large number of proteins matching cervico-vaginal fluid, indicating that the manuscript, meaning the birthing girdle, was indeed actively worn during labour. The researchers also found various non-human proteins, honey, milk, egg, and plants such as broad beans, all of which have been documented in medieval texts as treatments relating to pregnancy and childbirth. With no access to powerful analgesia, but with, I'm sure, a full awareness of the real dangers of birth, especially the very high maternal and infant mortality rates, objects of faith would, I imagine, have offered real succour for many, often perhaps the only form of succour. Through the process of the Reformation, the value of these items was questioned. They were decried by some as nothing more than superstitious objects. Holding them, owning them, might even be taken as a sign that a person had treasonous loyalty to the Pope in Rome. Thus, before long, it was seen that these objects might endanger not only the immortal soul, as things that could lead people to put faith in superstitions, but also the physical body. Perhaps they might be seen as drawing people towards treachery. Eventually, their use would be stripped away. Perhaps there were some people who found a way to cling on to the use of these items. If they did, presumably they would have relied on the discretion of the family, friends and midwives that came to attend upon them during their birth to sneak these objects in and indeed out of their birthing chamber. So they were successful. Even then, surely the furtive use of these items would have felt markedly different and perhaps generated a different effect to using them as part of a proud act of faith. Having to hide what you're doing in the birthing chamber would surely have boosted anxiety. And as I think many people will be aware, anxiety and successful delivery don't tend to go hand in hand. Many in society would, of course, just have to make do without them. I can't help but wonder if, even for the most reform-minded of mothers-to-be, they would have felt the lack of these items. Items that, in many cases, she would likely have seen being used successfully by the women who went safely before her. So what do you think about pregnancy, pilgrimage and prayer in early modern England? Of the potential effect that the English Reformation had on this process as a whole? As always, I'm looking forward to reading your conversations in the comments section underneath this video. I would also love it if you pop an emoji or a social glyph in the comments too, because that will boost the engagement. And the more engaged the video gets, the more YouTube claim they share it out, and that will help us to grow our community. As we've been talking about pilgrimage and childbirth, I think maybe some pregnant lady emojis, maybe some baby emojis, perhaps some church emojis. I look forward to seeing what you pick. You can find me elsewhere on social media. I will leave links to the place you can find me on the internet in my description box. Please do follow me over on some or all of those so we can continue this conversation and start some others. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, please share it with your friends. If you like my channel, let some pals know about it. You can tell me you like this video in particular by hitting the thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel. If you think you are subscribed, have a check now to make sure YouTube has not mysteriously unsubscribed you against your will. While you are there, checking, subscribing, maybe resubscribing, please do hit the bell icon that sits beside the subscribe button and then select all in the drop down that will appear. And that way YouTube claim they will tell you when I've next uploaded and also when I'm planning to go live, which I do a couple of times a month to talk about the history news. And I know you're not going to want to miss that. We have, of course, got our failsafe. Head to my website. I will link it. It is www.katrinamarchant.com. If you go to the contact page of the website, you'll see a little box. Put your email address in that box, hit submit, and then I will send you a message once a week to let you know what I've been up to, but also to send you useful links for my content for the coming days. I hope you're going to have a great day, whatever you're doing, and I look forward to speaking to you all in my next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye for now.